This is what you're going to learn in this training video. First up, we'll look at what the glorification of busy means and discuss how to identify what the busy trap looks like, why most people fall into it, and how to escape it. Next, we'll look at the key difference between being busy and being productive, and why it's critical to your success to be able to tell the difference. We'll then look at the proven time-tested 80-20 method that'll help you focus on creating results faster so you can avoid wasting time on things that aren't helping you achieve the results you want. I guarantee that this one thinking technique will help you cut out things which add no value to what you actually want to achieve. Okay, so let's start by talking about what it means to be busy. What does being busy feel like to you? Does being busy feel liberating, energizing, and motivating, or draining, worrying, and exhausting? Think about a typical day in your life. Do you feel anxious and guilty when you aren't working, studying, or spending time with friends? Do you feel like you must always be doing something even if you don't know what to focus on? Do you feel like success can only come from being constantly busy? Or could you be staying busy simply to avoid doing or thinking about something? I know, lots of questions, but it's really because I want you to start thinking about how you view your energy. Because let's face it, the pace of life is always increasing. We're always putting more and more expectations onto ourselves and others. Many of us live with a relentless sense of urgency and need for motion constantly. But here's the thing, if you're not busy working, you're busy on the phone. When you're not busy on the phone, you're managing or checking your social media. When you're not on social media, you're busy working out at the gym. If you're not at the gym, you're busy getting a coffee, having lunch, or scheduling the next meeting. Everyone, everywhere is juggling like crazy, and it's only getting harder to find time to relax and gain perspective on what we're doing with all our time. Now, being busy is great if you're being productive, but many young women are falling into the busy trap of life. If you ask people in your life, your friends, family, and work colleagues how they're going, they'll respond, "Oh, I'm just so busy right now with this project and that work schedule." But what are they busy doing? What are they busy spending their one precious life doing, and is it the best use of their time? What they don't realise is that they have become addicted to busyness. In fact, some people create a busy life to simply distract themselves from slowing down and being comfortable with spending time thinking about what is truly important. Some people dread what they might face if they had to step off the busy treadmill and live life simply without the distraction of time passing them by. Unfortunately, a life that's too busy can often lead to personal sacrifice and affect your overall physical, mental, and emotional well-being, as well as your mind's ability to gain strength, gain perspective, and clarity. Here in Clarity Class, we believe it's really important to allow yourself time to cut back on the busy stuff, to be able to create more clarity and see how you value time and energy every day. Because otherwise the danger of all this busyness means that you become a human doing instead of a human being. Think about this. How much of your day is spent actually getting you closer to your dreams? We end up sending hundreds of emails, Googling lots of pages, answering lots of phone calls, writing lots of to-do lists, holding lots of meetings, creating lots of ideas. And at the end of the day, what does all this energy create? Who does it serve? Do you feel like you're making progress? Often we just feel like we're going round and round in circles and getting nowhere fast. All our long hours studying or working, plus all our stressed out days, begin to take a toll, not just on our mind's ability to think, but the exhaustion also starts to make our heart feel weak as our passion begins to wear down and we start to think that everything we do is just a complete waste of time, that we are just existing instead of really living a full, richly rewarding and satisfying life. One of the most misleading but commonly held beliefs is that being busy means that you're being productive and accomplishing a lot with your day. The problem is that being busy doesn't actually guarantee that you're focused on what's important. It simply justifies being busy for the sake of feeling busy. You see, when you reinforce your need to be in constant motion and constantly plugged into everything around you, you are really telling your mind to focus more on the rush of the feeling that floods into your heart and mind rather than the end result. In fact, it should be the process of achieving a result that drives your behaviour in the first place. The outcome for all this time and energy you are using and spending on things. Because when you focus on the result, immediately you allow your action to align with what you really want and need to achieve, rather than wasting time on tasks that will add little value to your overall fulfillment. So what's the difference between being busy and being productive? Let's take a look now. Are your days frantic and rushed? Do you feel overwhelmed by pressure, yet underwhelmed by the end results you see? Do you spend your days reacting to people and events? Do you feel as if you are always in motion but that you never seem to get anything actually done? If this feels like you, welcome to the busy trap. It's time to look at ways to change how you use your time, and we're going to give you a few strategies to use in this module. Our goal for you is to be productive instead of simply being busy. When you are productive, you can feel calm and focused throughout the day and have your daily demands under control. Being productive means you're able to be proactive in dealing with situations and events and not wait for things to become urgent and demand your immediate attention and focus. Being productive allows you to see that you are making steady progress on your tasks and projects. Being productive gives you the confidence to know with certainty that each day you're moving closer to your dreams, all while living with gratitude and appreciating every second of your life. Okay, so you're wondering, well, how can you learn to be productive and not just busy? What we're going to discuss now is the 80-20 rule. We're going to take a closer look now at this proven thinking technique so you can learn how to focus on being really effective with the energy and time you have each day. I want you to be able to apply this method into your own daily life so you can figure out why it's important to only focus on and pay more attention to the sweet spots and key areas of your productive time. This way, you can expand the results and stop wasting time on activity that is simply keeping you busy and losing valuable time. Now, the application of the 80-20 rule that I'm about to share with you has seriously helped thousands of girls around the world learn to identify and focus on what matters, and I know it can definitely help you too. This thinking technique is used by many highly successful global organizations, including the likes of Google and Apple, and is used by many successful entrepreneurs. It's been endorsed by the likes of New York Times best-selling author Tim Ferriss and Australia's very own supermodel Miranda Kerr. So, what is this 80-20 rule exactly, and how can it apply to your own life? Well, about a century ago, an Italian economist, Vilfredo Federico Pareto, noticed a few things from his backyard. He saw that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people in Italy. He also observed that 80% of the peas from his garden were contained in just 20% of the pea pods growing in his garden. Now, as he began to notice, more and more things began to align with this 80-20 rule, and he soon developed a principle which later became known as the Pareto Principle or the 80-20 rule. Over the years, many other specialists observed similar phenomenon in many areas of expertise, that 80% of the effects come from around 20% of the causes. The 80-20 rule is perhaps the most shocking and the most obvious observation about life, because it explains that if we really concentrate on just what we want to see in life, that 20%, what we want to focus on, we will be in a position to expand what's possible by achieving more in many areas of our life, whether it's business, our gym workout, our results at college, our diet, etc. But let me clarify to you first and foremost that the 80-20 rule is not about economics or maths, but the easiest way to understand this rule is to simply realise that 20% of all your time and energy and effort account for 80% of your results. So instead of spending an entire day doing something that's not necessarily going to give you the result you want, why don't you instead begin to pinpoint that key area that is really working for you so you can expand it and reach your goal much sooner and save heaps of time in the process? So, by narrowing down what actually matters, the 20%, we can begin to identify and focus on what energy and action actually makes up this 20% that works for you. So you can begin to remove the 80% of action and activity that drains the life out of you and doesn't really cause any real result. Here are some examples of the 80-20 rule that may apply to your life. Now, if we look at love and relationships, the 80-20 rule tells us that often we will only get 80% of what we need in a relationship, and we will rarely receive the other 20% that we desire. Many problems in our relationships are caused by our extra desire for that 20% that may not be there. In regards to work and study, you could determine that about 80% of your best results are created in only about 20% of your day. So you may decide it's worthwhile to look at why this is the case and see if you can identify how you can stretch this productive period of your study time to get even better results. In team meetings, you may find that 80% of the most important discussion often only happens in about 20% of the physical meeting time. So, by focusing on only the most significant topics and address only the key action items, you can significantly begin to reduce the length of your meetings and avoid wasting valuable time. When applying the 80-20 rule to your finances, an example may be that 80% of your total grocery bill comes from 20% of the items you buy. If you take a look at your last grocery receipt and count only the top 20% of items in terms of cost, you will see that those are the items that will make up close to 80% of your grocery bill. And lastly, if we look at your health and well-being, you might determine that 80% of your physical results come from only 20% of the physical activity. So you could look at ways to increase these results by the type of workout you do. Many Clarity Class students also apply the 80-20 rule to their diet and decide that 80% of their diet should be healthy and green, while only 20% should be indulgent and include things like sugar. Psychology is also important because your psychology is 80% responsible for your success in any area of your life and impacts your ability to experience lasting fulfillment and satisfaction from your success. Now, these are just a few examples, but even by this list, you can begin to see and imagine how the 80-20 rule can be used to help narrow down where to focus your time and energy, so you can really begin to see and change the results in your life. By paying more attention to each area of our life and beginning to really use the 80-20 rule, we can begin to notice a difference to how we feel about ourselves, how we interact and communicate with people important to us, how we approach the issue of money, how we look after ourselves, how we see results at college or work, and how we approach our goals. The key for you here is to not focus on how much time you're wasting, but instead to focus on that 20%. Ask yourself, what are you doing well and what constitutes that 20% of your time that is really focused and driven? This way you can begin to train your brain to see results and become an expert at spotting productive bursts throughout your day. It's important to really think about the result you want and ask yourself the question, how would you normally get that result? You know, like you might spend a whole day on something trying to study for an exam or trying to finish a work project. Now, you might spend a lot of time trying to work towards something, but by starting to apply the 80-20 rule in your life, you can begin to identify when you are happiest and expand these feelings as much as possible. Identify when you feel most productive and expand these actions as much as possible. And identify when you create positive results and expand these results as much as possible too. So by learning to apply this rule in your life and focus on expanding what works, you can begin to focus more time in areas you love and that give you positive outcomes. Discovering your most productive 20% of time can give you the clarity you need to create the biggest impact in anything you set your heart and mind on. It really gives you the ability to think about how most of the time it's really only a portion of your work, your study, your money, etc., that actually gives you the results you want to see. So, I really want you to start to use this rule as your daily reminder to focus 80% of your energy on just the 20% of thoughts and actions to keep building significant value to your life. Don't just focus for the sake of concentrating on a task. Instead, focus on the 20% that will really make a difference. So, it's time to take action and think about how you can use the 80-20 rule in your life. Below this video, you've got your power sheet called the 80-20 application that will help you identify where you spend your time and energy and how to narrow down on the 20% that is going to give you better results. Use this power sheet to get clarity on making the biggest impact with your actions, your 20%, so that you can free yourself from unproductive activity and feeling busy just for the sake of it. This one is huge, so I'd love to hear what breakthrough ideas you uncover, and then coming up next, we're going to talk about how to apply your newfound energy, your best 20%, and how to really take your focus to the next level through Leverage Lever.